Hey there, it's Prospector Jess. How may I help you find more gold? So tonight we're going to take an adventure down that road called sampling. Sampling placer gold deposits. Specifically tonight we're going to talk about a picture's worth 10,000 words, or maybe more, maybe even $10,000 in nuggets, if it's the right picture. So you've heard me talk about sampling, you've heard me talk about placer gold deposits. I'm going to kind of try to go after those a little bit and give you a slightly different angle tonight. This is kind of one way to think about sampling. You've heard me talk about it in the past. You know, typically you'll go out there with your gold pan and you'll fill it up so high and kind of keep it uniform, or you'll take some other sampler like a bucket and you take a given volume of material, you stratify and sift it out using your gold pan or other device, and essentially you find out how many colors of gold and what quality they are that you find per unit of volume. The trick is to make sure you have a nice uniform volume, and if you're sampling in an area where you're really trying to find, you know, not just find some gold, but you're trying to really quantify how much, then the volume and the way you collect it is very important. I won't get into that tonight too much, but I will say that there's another thing you should incorporate with your samples that you probably don't think of, and that's a picture. And there's a device you can use to do that with. Here's the tip. Ta-da! Your cell phone, okay? And so you get out there and you punch up your cell phone and you grab a picture like the one I'm about to show you, and you also want to quantify the gold you found in the hole, okay? So no better way than to merge pictures after you're done and then put that in your box. And so one of the things that I want to show you here is a picture of a sample hole Josh and I dug one time, and just give you a feel for what you should be looking for and why it's important. And then I'm going to go over the picture in detail. So here we go. So this is a sample hole that we dug. Properly, Josh dug it. Actually, he was the one finding the gold in this area, and there were a couple things that qualified him to look here, and one is really quite visible in the picture, and I want to draw your attention to it right off the bat because it's worth paying attention to if you find this kind of thing. And that is right over here. You're going to see something that looks a bit like a concrete ramp. Well, it is kind of like a concrete ramp, but it's not concrete. It is bedrock. And it has all those earmarks we've talked about for the last few weeks. It's got cracks, it's got interesting, cleavage, it is a material that goes with gold, so that all check. Okay, so here we are looking at this ramp. Now, what you have to envision with that is that the old shoreline was right along, you can kind of see it there. I'm going to shrink myself down. The old shoreline was right along in here, shoreline as in this is where the edge of the creek bed was and where we started looking to see where this thing had deposited material. Now, first thing you want to notice is everything above this was high and dry, so it was visible. That's what attracted attention. The other thing is, notice the slope, its shallowness. All of these things are captured in this picture. That's why you want to take pictures. Because once you see places like this, you can look around for more that are like it and take other pictures. Put them in your sample book, mark where they came from, and then as you proceed through your site, you're going to go from location to location. And what you're looking for is the thing that's in this bottom part here, this stuff. How much gold did you find in that small an amount? I mean, if you look at this, it's about a Homer bucket and a half, if even a Homer bucket, okay? It's not a lot of material. It's everything in here, but it only goes down about 4 inches. It was pretty shallow. And it was rich in gold for that much material. And there's more where that came from. Okay, so what ended up happening is we found a little pocket of nuggets down and then some other stuff. But that's the whole point. You're supposed to look in these things and kind of guesstimate, am I looking in the right places? Well, there are a bunch of factors here. One being this interesting, almost looks like glacial cut. It's really not. It's actually water cut going through serpentinite, of all things. Really soft material. But the interesting part was all these cobbles were tripped up on top of it. So there was a lip, and the water flow, what you have to understand is the water flow, I'm going to draw it in blue here, the water flow was in a particular direction of importance. It was flowing this way. Now you see how the heck can water flow up that way? Well, that's what's interesting about this particular thing. This was a lip in the boulders by the creek, And what ended up happening is, as those boulders by the creek, you know, went and kind of collected at the base of this edge of this area where the stream flowed, only in the most flooded conditions would it hop over this big, huge boulder, which was the bedrock outcropping, to kind of trap all the cobbles and stuff behind it, forming a great little placer deposit right there, a trap, if you will, that was like the most giant riffle you've ever seen. And so going after this kind of thing is really important, but also it's really important to document what you find with pictures. That's what this is. And have a sample that goes along with it. Make sure you correlate the two. The picture's not as good by itself. The sample's not really good by itself. Having the location, the picture, and the sample together gives you a ton of information. I mean, you can just, like I said, 10,000 words here. You can look at this whole thing. You get a bit of scale by my shoe here and by the shovel and so forth. And that's actually a small little, you know, it's a great size shovel. I highly recommend that kind of thing for just your general prospecting. Easy to haul around, a T-handle on it, although it tends to get bent because you tend to like the leverage on those things, so they're not real happy about that. But you know, it works. And the beauty of it is it's small enough that you can easily fill up a couple of pans in a hurry or fill up a bucket in a few minutes. And it's not so big that you have to kind of lumber and lift. You're just taking this small thing. It's only about 3-4 feet long. It's small, more like a regular T-handled version of the infamous trench digger for U.S. Army surplus. Okay, the difference is that not having that little pivoting swivel on the end of it makes it a much more solid grip, and so I really enjoy using this shovel a lot. You can tell it's been painted more than once so that we find it when it disappears into the creek bottom. So that's one of the other deals you want to do. So I just wanted to kind of spend a little time and say, look, you know, when you're looking for samples and you're trying to figure out where the gold is, one of the things you want to do is get out your camera, take some pictures, get them from different angles, get objects in those pictures that you can identify, take a GPS coordinate or sample the thing with GPS coordinates. Be careful when you hand those pictures out to your friends on Facebook because they carry with them the coordinates of where the gold is. Okay, so you want to kind of scrub that. There's tools to do that. But the whole idea here is use those pictures to tell 10,000 words so that later you can go back and figure out where the rest of the gold is. That's what tonight's all about. So if I look at this spot and I see, you know, when I sampled it, I pulled out this many colors. That's what a color is. That's this stuff right here. And so when I take out the colors and I look at them, use the right color for colors, Jess. So I take this whole thing and I pull out what's in there and say, okay, count them. Well, hundreds, okay? And you really get out of, in this case, get out a small diamond scale and measure it. Because now you can actually get a pretty good picture of how much gold there is in what's under my foot and back. Because it should be a little bit even deeper with a little bit more gold nuggets, which is what was found. Okay, and so you want to kind of keep that in mind as you're working these places. You also want to keep in mind, like I said, the things that are telltales, like these cobbles and boulders and what they're looking like, the direction of water flow, the overall terrain and kind of what's in there in terms of vegetation, etc. All the little factors that come into play that tell you a little more about where the gold is in this region. Won't be the same for every region, but in this region, chances are pretty good that where you find the samples are telling you this much colors, there's going to be more nearby. Got pretty exciting. It will for you too. So that's kind of what tonight's tip is. I just wanted to let you know and kind of focus on that picture and how you can take that sample and picture, you're sampling with a photograph, and essentially your eyeballs and brain to understand where there's more gold. So take this tip with a grain of salt, a grain of gold, okay, and go look for more. I want to see your pictures showing up below. Post them. Go over to the Gold Prospectors HQ and post them, or over on my YouTube channel, Prospector Jess on YouTube. And I will see you then. That's it for tonight. Real short and sweet, simple tip, and take care. And go get your pictures of your gold.